We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Public Building Commission meeting to order. Donna, please call the roll.
Butch Schleier,
Present.
President Dean Hazelhorst,
Present.
Commissioner Destin Rock.
Present.
You have a quorum present for Public Building Commission.
Thank you very much. Any changes to the agenda this evening, Commissioners?
Nope.
Approval prior minutes. October 14th, 2019. Any changes?
No changes.
Real simple there, nothing.
Okay. Approved as presented. Consideration of accounts payable. I don't have any. Do
No.
Darren, you have anything to present? No. Project manager report.
Well, two parts on that. So we technically don't have a project manager for the Public Building Commission, so I gave a Commissioner Schleier a sample motion for you guys to read off. You can choose to pick somebody as a project manager and make that motion, and that's up to your board.
Yeah, guys, I think there's not enough going on in this. We're kind of winding it down. I think Darren is always up here. We might as well go that direction, is it?
Sure. I'd make a motion to appoint the interim county administrator, Darren Myers, as the capital building project manager for the Ellis County Public Building Commission.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second, Donna. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Executive sessions, I don't believe there is any. No. We will adjourn Public Building Commission meeting at 5:03. My pace is the same. We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Donna, please note none of my fellow board members that turned into commissioners, they are all still present. Any changes to the order of business this evening? I believe we have one executive session.
Correct. We have a couple others that want to make some announcement to you.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe Carrie McHugh will have something, as well as potentially Bill Ring.
Yep, I have that also.
And then Donna has an issue with the elections.
Correct. And we will put them under issues from persons not on the order of business. If that's okay with both. I know it is with Carrie. I already talked to him. And Donna, is that okay with you? Okay. Prior minutes, December 2nd.
No, I didn't get it.
Oh, there's nothing on that. Okay. That's easy. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I move we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. I know we have at least two, maybe more. Gary, you want to go first? Is Bill going to be on the agenda?
What's that?
Bill Ring, is he going to be on the agenda on the
He
truck?
said he has some stuff if you want to ask him.
Okay.
Anything
Good enough.
official?
Sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
That's all right. Carrie McHugh, Ellis County Health Services Administrator, and
Stephanie Eckroat, Ellis County Farm Bureau County Coordinator.
we were notified last week that the collaboration between the Ellis County Farm Bureau and Ellis County EMS had been awarded a statewide award called the Horizon Award in Service. So we were very proud of that, and I wanted to give that heads up to you guys. And I'll let Stephanie explain what
Sure.
exactly happened.
Sure. So the Horizon Award is given by the Kansas Farm Bureau to one of the counties in the state. They actually have 3 awards. They have service, advocacy, and education. And of the 105 counties in the state, we were awarded the service award. the event we held was a farm rescue and extraction training out at the research farm, and worked with the guys to put together a great program for that day and give them some education. And then we also, in the afternoon, put together some scenarios, some real life farm scenarios, and the emergency personnel had to come together as teams and work through those scenarios to be successful. It just kind of gave them a real idea of what it was like to work with a combine or work with that type of equipment to help rescue farmers and people out on the farm. So
It's a project that they will be again doing in April. They've already started that discussion. One of our field supervisors, Austin Talheim, is kind of our leading person within our agency, but Jason will be supporting him with the process, and he gets lots of help from his fellow crews. But it's been a very successful. Darren's department was there, and unfortunately, he reminded me today when I told him about it that they were so busy last year that they didn't get to participate very much, but the City of Hayes Fire Department did, and so hopefully that will change this year. So we're planning on making this an ongoing event, or let me rephrase that, they're planning on making this an ongoing event, and it'll be great to train first responders, and we're gonna, I think, open it up to some area folks this year and go from there.
absolutely.
So thank you for the
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah, thank you.
So did all the groups got to work together on the anhydrous ammonia accidents and things like that too? All the groups got to work together on that?
Actually, the anhydrous was part of the morning portion. We had a
Okay.
professor from the university come out and talk about things that happen with that and organophosphates. And the afternoon was more focused on the actual equipment,
Okay.
augers, farming equipment, combines, things like that. A lot of those guys don't get to handle that type of equipment. It was kind of almost, it was real life when I had a collegiate Farm Bureau student was underneath one of the pieces of equipment. He had to tell the responders how to get him out, because they didn't understand how to take it apart or how to move it. And he was underneath them telling them, no, you can't do that because you'll hurt me worse. So it was really, I think it
Great
was.
learning
Yeah,
experience.
it was great. It was great.
Great, well, thanks for.
Incidentally, the professor from the college that spoke about anhydrous ammonia is one of your part-time paramedics.
Oh,
So it all dovetails together very nicely.
great.
So,
Well, thank you both for doing what you did. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you, Carrie, also.
well, I have a couple other things. Thank you,
Okay,
Stephanie.
thank you.
First of all, with my retirement, there are a couple things I know for sure with EMS. You, as the operating agency, or the county commission, needs to send the Board of EMS a letter or notification that I'm retiring and Director Kennedy will be in the position within 7 days of my retirement. And that is a regulation and has to go directly to the Board of EMS. I've not found anything like that with the Health Department. In fact, I asked Butch a little bit ago if he remembered anything like that. I've already done some of the preliminary things with Medicare, and Claudine's taken care of some of the Medicare validation things, so that is all in process. But I do need to have you, and I can work with Darren to get him the correct address to know where that letter needs to go and have your signature with your approval of doing that. Lastly, I'd like to take a moment to thank you as a commission and the commissioners all the way back to the late 80s with Commissioner Tom Wassinger, Guy Wintholz, and Don Kempis, who were the ones that hired me many years ago. I'd like to thank all of you for the support and guidance that I've gotten from the many of you over the years. I'd ask that you give the department heads and the elected officials the latitude to be successful and do the right thing for the right reasons, the way we try and do things in this county, and give them the support to be successful. Publicly, I'd like to thank not only you as a commission, but the fellow department heads and elected officials that have been supportive, and probably most importantly, my staff, because they do exactly what we do. They take care of sick people, both at the health department and EMS. And without them doing such a great job, that agency wouldn't be thought of as highly as it really is. So I think you've got a young man taking the position that will be outstanding. I think I've told you that before. I'd wish him the well and the department well in the future. So thank you.
Thank you,
For your
Kerry.
service also, Kerry. Moving on, Donna, I believe you're next.
Donna Maskus, Ellis County Clerk, Election Officer. Just wanted to keep you abreast about the contacts we talked about last Monday. They both declined. That was for Suburban Estates Improvement District. I had the girls run out a list today. 2 of you commissioners have looked at it. Dean, you haven't looked at it. So I do have 2 suggestions that have been given to me. So I'll talk to you after the meeting or give me direction, I know one was the Dreyer, Aaron Dreyer, and one that I called that declined suggested maybe Bridget Schubert.
Okay.
So I don't know how you feel about that and which one I should contact first, but we do need to fill all 3 positions.
I have no objections.
You got a coin in your pocket, we'll flip and we'll tell Donna which one to call first.
I don't have.
Anybody got any change on them? I don't either. Darren? Anybody out in the audience, can we borrow a quarter? We promise we'll give it back. Sure.
Are you guys okay with that?
I don't care. Is that all right with you, Butch?
Yeah, fine with me.
Call him first, and if that
Okay.
one declines, Schubert's next in line.
Okay.
Can't believe it's that tough to fill that job, but that's fine.
Thank you much there.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you, Donna.
Okay. Bill Ring? This is kind of fun. This is the most we've ever had on issues persons not on the order of business.
Good.
I think 11 years.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Director of Public Works. I apologize for this coming on short notice, but unfortunately, we finally got the information we needed, and that was Wednesday, and the agenda had already been established. So upon speaking to the Commission Chair and to the Acting County Administrator, we decided to just go ahead and bring it forward. So if you would take a minute, there's a quick overview of what has occurred. We've been working on this for months now, trying to nail down what to do about. We have 3 dump trucks that need replaced. And so what we're suggesting is similar to what we did with the graders that you let us acquire a few months ago, is trade three trucks on 2. And that would get us in a better position than we are now. One truck is a 2002 Mack. It's got 431,000. It needs an engine, and you're probably easy 30,000 plus repair on that. The second's an 08 Western Star with 356,000. It has a bad cylinder, and we're limping that along as a backup. And the third is that truck's twin 08 Western Star with 350,000, and it's excessively using oil, and that also doesn't have a plow unit on the front of it. Never has. So we met with the two vendors in town. One is Mack Truck, and the other would be Peterbilt, that being Bruckner for Mack and Doonan for the Peterbilt franchise. They both are Sourcewell government contracts they have established. And so after meeting with them, we came up with a spec on a dump truck based on what we've been using for the last, I don't know, 10 plus years. And that truck would be $191,326. That includes the extended warranty, which would cover the DEF, which is the diesel additive that's required on all the vehicles now. And it would also keep from our shop from having to, for at least the beginning of it, having to work on it. Everything would be covered through the dealership. The 3 county units, they offered us a total of $29,500 for the 3 trucks. That was not included in their price, as the invoice shows there's no trade-in. We could either choose to work through that with the dealership, or we could put those 3 trucks out on one of the government auction sites to see if we could garner a few extra dollars. And then the second part of this is financing. We've looked at different things staff has as to how to finance because of just the magnitude of cash that we're pulling out at a one shot, like with the 2 graders that, was a quick shot, was $421,000. So I had a few discussions with the local folks here, and then I talked to PACCAR Finance, PACCAR being the owners of Freightliner in Kenworth, and their finance people, and I just kind of gave you an overview of what they offered, which would be just a conventional loan package, similar to what any of us would do if we were to buy a new vehicle. 60-month, with basing it on the $191,326 price, 60-month 0 down at 5 1/4. It'd be $36.35 a month, or $43,620. I think we possibly could do better than that locally, which would just lower what our outlay would be. Plus, I also think that there's a little bit longer financing that we could look at, so we could stretch our payments out. Instead of in 5 years, maybe go 7 years. And at a better interest rate, we wouldn't be paying that much more in overriding interest, and it might assist the cash flow at the county.
Bill, how much cash do we have on hand to purchase trucks?
We've got the cash in Fund 16 to do it, but we're getting down to where we're not going to have a lot of cash left.
What would be left?
I've got to get with bookkeeping and find out where. I haven't seen the latest report.
Something to keep in mind, Butch, and maybe you're going to allude to that about the grader and the loader in a little bit.
We can.
If we, and I want you to cover that. When I met with Bill the other day, and Kurt was present, if we start leasing equipment with like a buyback at the end, let's just say, I don't remember, how much was it to lease a grader for a year approximately, you remember?
It was $25,000 over 5 years per year, or 23 over the 7 year.
And then we could buy it at the end, plus that would have a full warranty on it up to 7 years.
7 years, 8,800 hours.
If we lease it versus buying it, it's gonna enable Bill's department to do more things versus using the cash up. So that's kind of what we talked about also, Dustin, so you're included.
Yeah, we're getting short of cash.
And that's why we also looked at possibly doing these dump trucks. I know Bill talked to 2 banks or 3 banks, right?
I just made a generic call to 2 financial institutions just to get a rough idea.
And then also PACCAR also he talked to.
I had PACCAR quoted as part of the package when we visited with them, just to see
So if we
what they could do.
make monthly payments or yearly payments, it'll just keep more cash within that department in case we have something that we really have to pay cash for,
I can understand that.
just so you both know.
What we're also looking at doing, Commissioner, is trying to get some of the maintenance that can come up near the end of where trade-in time is, or during the time, but to let, as an example, Caterpillar take care of the equipment, or if we choose to go with Peterbilt on trucks, let them take care of it. to take our staff off of trying to maintain everything else that we own, and then this new big heavy equipment. And with the graders, as an example, if we could, turn those at 7 years, 8,000 hours, or eight years max, they'd be fully warranted. And
We know how to.
Commissioner Hazelhorst would remember that 2 years ago, we had a grader, 12,000 hour. It was in great shape, and it chucked an engine. $62,000 later, out of our budget, it was back on.
Because when you work on a grader, if you pull the engine, you have to, the transmission's right there, and the only way you can get to the transmission is if you pull the engine. So we did them both at the same time. And we do have, I don't know if you guys are aware, but we had another grader to go down, I think it's a 140H that has like 13,500 hours on it. It also just went down. So
So
anyway,
in looking at, instead of where we laid out $400,000 a couple of weeks ago, we could make a whole lot of payments on that. If we could start to get our fleet where we could turn it, and then we would take all this heavy maintenance off of it, the cash that we're laying out, let CAT come out and fix it. It would free our people up, and we wouldn't be laying out the repair cash. And if we could get it so we could cycle it, wherein when those graders are at where Caterpillar talks about 10 years, 10,000 hours, give or take. We usually put 1,000 hours. But the 10,000 hour mark is where you can expect to see, possible large failure. They're not saying it's going to happen, but they get a lot of hard use on them. So if we could be trading them at the 7-8 year mark, where it still has $100,000 value, because graders the year after next will be 300. We've been told that, and looking at the price of today's graders, I can firmly believe that. So
If financing is the way to go with this, maybe you can find a lower rate.
correct.
Yeah.
That's my goal is to.
Sure.
But I just wanted to have a base number from the. It's just like when you go to the dealer.
Well, sure.
You go and buy a Ford. Ford Finance has a rate available. They can sign you up right then and there. And more often than not, your local, financial institution can do better. And so that's what I want to be able to try to find that. But I just wanted to have a base point, because I know we can, but I wanted to have a base point for you to look at to see what what a finance on that kind of an expense would be.
Well, that'd be fine with me. For you to look.
you fine with that, Dustin?
Yeah, I would say you definitely shop that interest rate a little bit. It seems a bit high for our, financial ability to perform on that note. 5.25 seems high, but I understand it's equipment that maybe always warrants that type of stuff. So I don't know how you guys feel about the two quotes. I mean, is there any kind of specifications from you, Bill, on which one you guys would rather own, a Mack or a Peterbilt?
Well, for both the Peterbilt, we spec'd out what we were looking for: front axle weight, rear axle, bed capacity, et cetera. We've got a set which
Yep.
we went off of, and then by you having the Sourcewell price available, we didn't have to get into the true RFP process, but we were able to get the best offered price. So the 367 Peterbilt is far and away the better price.
Right.
And then depending on what you want to do with the trade, which is why I put it there that, you could net it out at 176,576 if we were to accept their trade, or if you think we can get more than 30,000, or we want to try to get more than the 20, it's actually 29,005.
Just for clarification, Bill, on the Peterbilt, in your notes, it says extended warranties included, correct?
Correct.
And on the Max, it was
If we
not
wanted to buy
included?
beyond the factory, we would have to,
That extended warranty is about, was it 8 or 10,000, you said?
well, the ones that are quoted, if you look at the bottom of your quote, the warranties was $8,053
On the Peterbilt,
on the Peterbilt.
but that's included, so it's approximately another 8,000 on top
Right.
of the,
It would be some
bid
number,
from-
and
from
depending on
Brockhurst.
how their warranties come out. But, because we definitely, like on the DEF system, you definitely want to warranty that, because it's so costly should it break. And again, we don't have the training and the knowledge, so we want to make that to be part of it.
Okay, so just to clarify this again, the 191 includes the extended warranties.
Correct.
The Bruckner at 210, we'd have to add another 8,000 approximately to that price. so-
Some number, could be less than it, I don't
So
have their
somewhere maybe
warranty
around
pricing.
216 to 218,
Right.
give or take, I guess. Okay. How about delivery? If
We're
we choose to-
looking at, I'll call it late spring, probably April-ish is what both. See, the other issue that, and they've come off it, but Mac was on strike for some period of time here not too long ago, which has delayed their shipping trucks. So the other truck vendors are also feeling, because people are trying to buy it from them. So both said it would be, I'll say beginning of May. They mentioned maybe mid-late April, but
And then on this one you gave us on trade-ins, it says trading in 3, we only have 2 appraisal sheets. Was they not going to trade the 2002 in? Or did you guys get 3 appraisal sheets and I only got 2?
should have, I'm sorry, if you, there should be 3 attached to it.
I only have 2. You guys have 3?
I got 3.
Oh,
Yeah, I only have 2.
you only have 2?
Yeah.
And I just thought Bill didn't like me, see, he just shorted me.
I got the
The
2008.
only one I have. Well, you only have 2.
There's 3 sheets there.
3 total, but not an appraisal on the, there's not an appraisal on the 2002 Mac.
Yeah, here's the Mac.
It's an 08, isn't it?
This is the 2002. And then, yeah, I had the 2 08s.
Oh, I just got 2 08s in mine.
That's all I had, too. He just handed me that one.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Butch, hand that back to Darren, please.
Bill, how do you feel about us at auction on that price? Do you think we'll do better? Is it just kind of a gamble?
It's not a gamble. It's just, I mean, if you look at, and it's been a few years, when we bought the 416 in 2016 for the landfill, we had them quote, again, similar to this, where you quote it, where you can do it, you can do a cash buyout or finance buyout and have the trade be an option for the county. Both vendors quoted approximately $8,000. We sold it for $17,000. We thought it was worth 10.
Yeah.
So you don't, it's like any auction, Dustin, on any given day.
Just got to get 2 people that want it.
Exactly.
The ones at 5,500, that's with the engine issue, and then 13,000. What was the 2002? Probably pretty low.
The 2002 Mac is the one with the engine issue.
Yeah.
He has 11,000 on that one, on the 02.
Oh, wow. Wait,
Which a new engine's probably gonna cost,
30,
yeah.
give or take, plus installing it.
Am I reading that right? I mean,
What do you got there, man?
08, 08.
5,500.
Yeah, 5,500, 13.
That one needs, I think, transmission. 30,000, I think that one was in the transmission too. One needs an engine and a transmission, correct? One hasn't, or is it rear end problems? The one has an engine and
No,
transmission.
the Mac has just got the engine. That's got that downward Mercedes-Benz engine.
Yeah, that's a way high dollar one.
But they're giving us better money for that. 11 versus 5,500.
Yeah, plus miles.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give you that premium. You roll the dice with Purple Wave, or do you walk away from them and be done? I know in the past, on our other equipment we sold on Purple Wave, we did really well. That one loader, I think it went to, or dozer, didn't it go to overseas somewhere, South America or something?
And that often happens, but, it's,
But where these don't run, that kind of is a different deal.
My suggestion is we would shop some financing over the week and try to make a decision for him, so, especially if these are taking a while for delivery.
Well, that's, and we probably, I think the quotes, did you say?
We need to commit on the quotes at
Yeah,
least,
'cause
that,
it's
so
gonna
we can
expire.
lock in, because it'll go into next year in line for
We can probably,
purchasing.
we could commit on the quote with the quote with instructions that you will shop financing.
Correct.
And that'd be, we meet again next week.
Right, because we'll have plenty, I mean, it take months to finance, to figure out, you know, it won't take that long, but we'll have plenty of time to research that, and I can come back to you with different options, go to the different institutions, et cetera.
The only issue I have is if we're gonna accept the quote, do we need to accept the trade initially, or do we need to wait?
That's up to you, I mean,
I would say let's do some research on what these things are going for at auction before we accept the trade, and,
I think you see it there.
yeah.
That's fine.
So,
and that's why you have just this,
Right.
which is just, that's giving you the truck with the extended warranty and the new box on the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta figure as old as them trucks are, they're not gonna bring much. I mean,
yeah.
especially where they don't run. If they were driving and they were still in service, you'd double that amount. Probably wouldn't double it, but you'd be
Yeah.
averaging probably 18,000 per truck.
I just wonder, even as a parts truck, on some of the stuff that has, is as low as it is on those, but
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I guess that should be the discussion then is, I mean, I feel like if they're comfortable with the Peterbilts, it's quite a bit less money. And especially if we're talking about financing, it becomes even less money. So that would be the way I would lean, as well as not accepting the trade initially and working on our financing and whether or not we want to do that trade.
To give you just, and I did some numbers on my own, but just to compare with the financing, if you took and you did it over 7 years at, say, 4%, your payment drops to $2,615 for the 7-year period, but your total outlay is only $219,660. Your total outlay from pack cars $218,100. So you're talking minimal different, but it would give you 7 years to pay for the truck. And we're hoping that based on the mileage that, you know, we don't put a lot of miles on these trucks. They just get a lot of hard use on bouncing on county roads. That we'd like to see on dump trucks, you know, roughly 12 years minimum, probably if we get 15 out of them. So we would, again, we want to have the value, which is what we're losing with like that 02. That's, you know, it should be worth a lot more than that, but with a blown engine, somebody's going to look at it and go, even if they did, you know, a junkyard deal, they're still going to have $20,000 in buying a used engine and then time to put it in.
yeah. And I'd say two of them trucks will be scrapped. One may be fixed, but two of them trucks will be scrapped for parts only, but, I believe the instruction is to have you shop interest rates, commissioners, correct?
Correct.
And research value of the trucks online
Yeah,
through Purple Wave or some other organization.
That's
Yep.
fine. Yeah,
I'd
we
say
can,
let's
we
keep-
can do that, look at some of the other selling sites and get some comparative numbers.
I'd rather keep that interest local if possible as well, and
That was
possibly
my
better.
thought as well, but,
Yeah.
you know, so we're buying local on the trucks. If we can shop, if we're gonna bank it somewhere, why would, even if we could match it, you know, even if
Right.
they had a better rate, I would prefer to see it, you know, go
Stay
to an
here.
institution here in town.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the last two leases we just did, the reclaimer that Public Works did was at 3.9%, so that's significantly lower. And then
That was actually through Cat Finance, though.
And then local bank for some radio equipment was 3 3/4. So that's a 1.5%.
And that's why when I just ran some examples, I used 4%. I just picked that as a, you know, potential number to try to get close, and I agree.
Okay,
See what you can find.
that'll be
Okay.
fine.
And then the only other thing we need with this is we will need to purchase one new snow plow itself. We have one that's just worn out old and It's been welded and re-welded, and all the other equipment will work, but that would be,
Yeah, I can
that's
make a motion.
$15,305 for an 11-foot, 42-inch Henderson.
I take it you've put that plow out on bids already, or you know that answer is why you have
We
that
got
number?
that through Sourcewell, that number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion that we accept the offer from Dunan of Hayes Peterbilt on a 2021 Peterbilt 367 tractor with dump body for $191,326. Extended warranty included, and that we go further with trying to figure out a better financing option. Times two. As well as a replacement snow plow from Henderson RSP for the price of $15,305.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? You guys had a lot of good discussion. Appreciate that. Any further discussion?
None for me.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
You had mentioned, do you have enough on we talked about loader and grader? You said,
Oh, bring that up to him. When I met with Bill and Kurt the other day, they were going through other things that are gradually dying. Well, the grader already died, but anyway, as far as leasing them going forward, and just go ahead and cover that, what we visited about the other day.
we talked about, we just purchased the 2 graders. I had them price out another grader, and it's within dollars of what the 2 you just purchased. But again, looking at financing it over 7 years to get the 7 years, the 8,800-hour warranty on it, and that would be $23,000 and change on 7 years, or $25,000 on a 5-year.
And that goes back to that Butch and Dustin, both what we talked about, instead of laying out the whole amount, if we had a $25,000 a year payment, at least then we could keep cash
Right.
available at Public Works and in Fund 16. So,
And again, that would help to cut down on our maintenance, where we could pick up the phone and call Cat, and,
Billy-
any major expenses would be covered.
And these are typical lease options where we have a option to purchase
Correct.
at the end.
Or we can turn, with Caterpillar, you can turn the value, like the scenario they presented on this one as an option, it showed it had a value of $105,000. So we can either buy it for $105, or we can put the $105 as, basically the down payment on the next one. You just, keep turning them.
You're talking 25,000 for 5 years with what kind of down payment? Do they have a down payment?
Caterpillar's interesting. You can do it, they'll go either way. We can pay, and it's a little cheaper if you start off where you pay the first payment at the beginning of, year one, and then you pay every year. Or you can do it the opposite way, and it'll raise its sum, where if we were in a cash tight position, we could get it for the first year for no payment, 0 down, and then we pay at the end of year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So at the end of 7 years, when we're ready to get rid of it, we would make the 7th payment.
so if we trade that one grader in that died, and it's worth $40,000, could that be our first payment or not?
No, that was, they financed, the sale amount was based on turning it in, and they were giving us equal value to the twin that we just traded in.
Oh, okay.
I think 55,000 on that one.
54,000 was that one.
Right, that lowers it, gets it down, and then we would be financing it. That,
Okay.
our trade-in is included in that already.
Would that be the same on that loader also, if we get rid of that Volvo loader?
We'd have to get a price on that, because, we're trading a Volvo on a Cat, and that's a number of years old. That's what, 15, 17 years?
Kurt may know. How old's the Volvo loader, Kurt, do you know?
Was that a 10 or a 2?
I bet it's a 2010, yeah,
I think
Oh,
it's
is that old?
2002.
really? It's that old already?
We have 2. We've got the one, the old one is a 2002, and then the other one is a 2010.
Okay,
But again, we're talking it's a 950M series, which is a large, loader which we need to move rock, et cetera. And we're probably talking, and I talked to Caterpillar about trying to get me some information so I can come back to you with, start the conversation of what it's going to cost. But it's a greater price.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like buying a backhoe.
That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What kind of trouble are you having as far as mechanics and maintenance on these in hiring more than anything? Is it getting tougher?
We're still empty, 6 months empty.
Okay.
Slot.
Okay.
And we just have a lot of equipment. And the specialized, once it goes out of warranty, up until that point, you can call Caterpillar, they come right out.
Yeah.
But once it goes beyond that, trying to get, and I send our guys to Caterpillar training, but it's more overview training. There's a couple of classes a year. It brings them up to speed on the computer stuff, on the hydraulic systems, et cetera. But it's not where you're taught like at a Caterpillar facility to work on a day-to-day basis. And that training is not available unless you work for Caterpillar.
Right. Yeah. They don't want that proprietary stuff
Correct.
gone. I think that's something we have to keep in mind in the future is the idea of a salary with benefits package to try and keep these things running. And I think that makes that lease option even a little more aggressive. We're talking almost three grader payments to pay for one employee that's supposed to be taking care of them, and they're under warranty. So,
One thing we have to do, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're just responsible for maintenance, changing oil and greasing tires, except that's about it, isn't it?
Filters, tires, wiper blades, headlights, same thing on your own vehicle, wear and tear items, or if we break something. I mean, if, we put a rock through a window or something like that, that's on us. Most of that we put through our insurance,
All
but,
stuff is covered through the CAT for
but,
some.
we're talking engines, transmissions, hydraulics, steering assemblies, rear
cable,
ends,
everything, yeah.
The high dollar, like the engine transmission combination.
Any other questions, Butch?
No, nothing from me.
Bill, thank you for your time.
thanks, Bill.
All right, if you have any other questions, just let me know,
Will
and I'll
do.
work on that finance for you.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Anyone else? Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening?
We're not getting very far very quick.
As long as we've been here for 45 minutes. Seeing none, monthly financial report, gentlemen.
No questions from me.
No questions.
Moving on, strategic plan. County Interim Administrator Darren Myers.
Oh, just a little bit of history on this before get too in depth with it. Roughly June, July, the executive team started talking about the future of Ellis County with the sales tax that we were discussing at the time, and just discussing the future goals, where we want to be, where the department heads think we should be, and that discussion led to several individuals on the executive team that thought about strategic planning. I believe Mike Leiker was the first one to bring that up. And that discussion developed into forming a small group of 4 of us, which grew to the 5th member here about a month or 2 ago with a treasurer, Suzanne in the treasurer's office. She started attending some of our meetings. So we started talking about it, coming up with some plans, and we decided to bring somebody into the executive team to discuss what a strategic plan has done for their organization. It was with Sunflower Corporation. And they presented to the group. So we started looking out at other fundings sources to figure out how we were going to try to pay for this, just thinking if we went outside, this could be a big project for the county. And so we started going to the strategic doing with the Heartland Community Foundation, thinking that we could possibly get some funding and some outside stakeholders' input, depending on how large of a project we were going. That kind of took a different turn than we expected because there was more of the external stakeholders, I guess, more than what we could do internally just for us within Ellis County. But what's interesting about it is when we went to those meetings and Commissioner Rose was there with us, it was the largest group that was formed by far, probably by double the amount of people that had interest in it. But we started shopping around and we talked to the Docking Institute at Fort Hays. We went out and met with them a couple times. So the group that kind of started was Jason Kennedy, myself, Scott Brown, Mike Liker, and then Susanna with the Treasurer's Office joined us. And we came back to the executive team and asked the executive team how everybody would like to proceed if we were to proceed with a strategic plan. And the group, I wouldn't say there's no hesitation from the group, because the group knows that it's going to take some work to get done. But their concern was that we not necessarily do it in-house. It was basically unanimous, at least no one spoke up opposed to it, that we should do it in-house. They all suggested we do it externally, have somebody come in to facilitate the discussion, pick our brains, and put all that stuff down onto a piece of paper. So that's kind of led us to where we're at now. We've had several discussions at the end of Phil's time. He was, I think, happy for us to do it. I think, I'm trying not to assume, but I think he had a lot of stuff going on his plate, and he was happy that he saw some of the department heads stepping up to look proactively into the future of Ellis County and take this project on. And he looked at the price and the project as well as the facilitator and agreed that we should proceed. However, he was leaving us, so he didn't want to bring this to the commission on his time. But I could go on for a while with this, but I like I say, this was a team effort. It wasn't just myself. So I believe Mike and possibly Scott may have something they want to mention if the commission would be willing to hear their input on it.
Sure.
Mike Liker, Ellis County IT Department Director. Yeah, I was the one, like Darren said, I was the one that originally posed the question in our executive team meeting. We were having discussions about budget and services and our future and how we were going to proceed, in the years to come. And I asked the question to the executive team, what's our plan? Where are we going and how are we going to get there? And that was kind of the beginning of this whole process. And it really became apparent fairly quickly that we had to have some process to put our plan together as an agency. Each department has their own plan. That we all know how to do what we do. I know what I need to do to keep IT going. And Carrie and Jason know what they need to keep emergency medical services and health going. But to have a cohesive plan for the entire county, we have to have that greater plan and put all those pieces together. And as Darren mentioned, we quickly also realized that I think Darren even asked the question, do we build it or buy it? And I think that was a really good question. And we all realized that no individual really had the expertise to do that. It wasn't really our forte to facilitate that type of undertaking. And also, it wouldn't be fair to any one individual department head or person within the county to facilitate this process, because then they can't focus on their piece of it. For instance, if I would be the facilitator for the group, for the strategic plan, that takes away from IT's part of presenting, what we need. So we looked around to several different organizations in the community. One specifically was one of my former employers, Developmental Services in Northwest Kansas, and they've been doing strategic plans for many years, back even when I was there almost 23 years ago. They are still doing that, and we invited the president of DSNWK in to talk to us about their process. And they have a similar process. They do it every year. They hire a facilitator to come in to help them, and they go off-site. They take all of their executive staff. They do a 2-day retreat, and we're not recommending that by any means. We don't have the luxury, I don't think, to do that, but they put a lot of time and effort into that process, and it works well for them. I can speak from personal experience that it helps them have a vision and have a direction. So that's kind of where I have been coming from, and kind of how I got elected to be the chair of the committee for strategic planning. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have for me, or I can speak for the group, or if Scott wants to come up, or Jason, or anyone. But that's where we are right now. So.
Well, I think it's important too, the county, I mean, we haven't heard a lot about this, obviously, because you guys have all been meeting, but, I mean, it's important to the county, especially going forward. After January 1, we're going to be looking at a sales tax, so we can tell the public a plan going forward, what we're looking at doing. And it needs to be a vision, I mean, down the road, whether it's a 5-year plan or, you know, a 10-year plan. We need to have a vision. Obviously, us three are not going to always be up here. And, I mean, we need to have a plan going forward for the department heads that may still be here and going forward also. Scott, do you have anything you want to add, or Jason, if you want to come up? Lisa, you're in the crowd too as an elected official. If you'd like to.
I might eventually. I'm going to wait a little bit.
Okay. I was going to say, if you want to follow suit and get in line, you can get in line and speak too.
Scott Brown, Ellis County Undersheriff. Yeah, we've been studying this pretty hard, and it's a huge undertaking. But we're running a multi-million-dollar business, and we need some guidance. And as Mike said earlier, I don't want to echo too much of what he said, but we in the sheriff's office, we have some goals and objectives in that we want to meet, but we don't know how that ties in with our current county, and I think it's important to get it on paper so we're all thinking the same way and we're all a team. And I think that's where we fall short right now. And by doing this, I think we can better facilitate and spend our money, our taxpayers' money within our community better, and have some foresight. So that's all I have. So thank you, guys.
I think it's a great idea also going forward, so we do have a long-range plan. Jason, anything to say, or Lisa? Lisa wants to talk.
Lisa Schlegel, Ellis County Treasury. My perspective with this strategic planning thing is I've visited a little bit with a couple of the commissioners. I actually have been educated in strategic planning. I studied organizational leadership and management. When I became treasurer, I executed what I've been taught as standard practice for a strategic plan. You have state mandated goals as a treasury, as a county office. You have personal goals, and you have something that you do in each department that makes your department excellent. And so you make a list and you start working on it. You know, it took me several months to get a list together just for my own department as a full-time event. And it's taken me 2.5 years to establish and make the goals that I set out to reach be reached. It takes a lot of time to do that. I would never do an undertaking like that for $5,500. It can't be done without sustained energy and great detail. I also mentioned to a couple of the commissioners an article I recently read in the Wall Street Journal about strategic plans, which often can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is what I have earned as a treasurer at this point, you know, a salary and a full-time job for looking into something in such depth to create these kind of goals and get them done. No organization is going to be able to give you depth and exactitude for $5,500. You get what you pay for in this world. I see a lot of things with this plan being kind of cart before the horse. I see a better way of doing it, and I'd like to bring that forth today as my suggestion. Strategic plan that you guys are mentioning, you know, it's a thick packet. I read it thoroughly. I disagreed with a lot of stuff in it, and I don't want to spend my time going through line by line what I disagree with, because it's already been said by Susanna Augustine, who's my Department of Motor Vehicle person in the office. She's part of the strategic planning team. I think a better way of doing it would be something like other counties that I've seen, a strategic plan. You know, the citizens elect commissioners to manage a county, and occasionally county commissioners, city commissioners will get together and they'll hire a county administrator to help them manage the county staff. We have 180 some county staff. They need to be managed. And I propose that we work internally together in a little bit different way. Like maybe we take a different turn. For example, I think it would be nice if a county commissioner or all three would attend our executive team meetings. Riley County is an example of a very successful county statewide, has an excellent reputation for just open communication. Departments know what other departments are doing. Each, on a regular basis, sometimes every week, sometimes every 2 weeks, they get together and all the commissioners there, the media's there, and all the department heads take turns rotating on hosting a meeting and saying, hey, here's what's going on in my department. What are your questions? And it really creates openness and exchange of ideas. And it's very effective for getting things done. The Wall Street Journal article I referred to just described strategic planning, even when you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, as being something that you get a packet of papers and you stick it in a drawer and you think, okay, where do we go from here? We don't need members of the Docking Institute to tell us, to tell our county staff that have been here for decades, our county department heads that have years of experience doing what we need to do, which is already lined out a lot of times by statute. Who is going to know better how to run our roads than Public Works and their staff? Who is going to know better how to run the Treasury than the staff that's there and people that spend years and months studying it? You're not going to get a Docking Institute study with a general overview that's going to provide you of anything of actual substance. And that is my opinion on it based on a lot of other small things. I'd love to talk with you individually. I could be up here for an hour and outline all the notes I took on that paper that illustrate to me that it's just not an effective plan. As a person that the voters have picked to represent their best interests, I think something that would be much more beneficial is just a regular attendance to our executive team meetings by our commissioners. At that time, that each of you could bring your concerns, bring your questions, and we could all work together on coming up with our strategic plan and be managed directly the way it was intended. Again, I'm going to go through one more thing as just an illustrative example. I'm a visual person. The voters pick commissioners to manage the county staff. The commissioners occasionally pick a county administrator. What we don't need is a county administrator or a former county administrator making committees to do that, or then those committees going and hiring other people. I think we need to take a step back, do some grassroots work here within the county with people that we know have the county's best interest at heart and the voters picked to manage the staff rather than do something outside or bring an outside agency in at this point. So that's my opinion, and I just wanted to share that with you gentlemen tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. Darren?
Commissioners, if I may make a point of clarification or additional information. The Docking Institute, us pursuing the Docking Institute is not to get them to provide guidance as far as how we do our jobs, but to act as facilitator for the strategic planning process. To help us, to basically be a referee, a coach, a cheerleader at times, but just to keep that process moving. There is assistance proposed in this plan from the Docking Institute to build a questionnaire to poll the county staff, and I'm not sure how far we can decide just how far we want that poll to go. But again, their primary focus is as facilitator for this process.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Commissioners, I don't think I'm ready to make a decision on this until I know a little bit more about it. I mean, it's been talked about in the past. I think Butch had been a part of it.
Commissioners, I have a lot to say about this.
Okay, go ahead.
When I first got this, opened my packet, I looked at it, pissed me off so much I threw it down on the table. This is 100% bullshit. That's what it is. Let me remind you, commissioners, this year we've purchased land for expansion of the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
We've obtained the federal grant to build the Northwest Corridor project. We've got a sales tax on the ballot in April. And we've conceptualized a Public Works Division building that contains all of its departments. All of this is done without a strategic plan. In 2011, I was part of that strategic plan. The best thing that came out of that was the meal they served that day. There was nothing accomplished on that plan that would not have been accomplished had that plan not been there. Ellis County is a political subdivision of the state. It's an arm of state government, and it's an agent for the traditional functions of the state. In addition, Ellis County also has a role in the community. We provide services such as economic development, environmental planning and zoning, mental health, senior citizens services, and many others which you are all aware of. The County Board of Commissioners is in charge of county governance. It is not an administrator who's in charge. It is not a department head, a group of department heads, an elected official, or any committee composed thereof of these people. The Board of County Commissioners can work with all of our department heads and elected officials to identify the resources necessary for services, as well as the issues, needs, or problems that we may encounter that could affect county government. And if any of you department heads don't think you're up to that task, then just get the hell out. I don't need you. I do not request, or do I want, any direction from any, for county priorities from city managers, city mayors, commissioners, councils, or directors of other institutions within this county. We are capable of doing this ourselves. I will not support or participate with this project. I will vote against this project if it's implemented. I will not put my signature on any voucher paying for such a process. In addition, I will support any department head or elected official who chooses not to participate in this project. We can do this ourselves. We do not need outside people to come in and prioritize these kind of things for the county. This is something that just insults me and pisses me off to no end. And that's about all I got to say on this subject.
Thank you, Butch. Very well put. Dustin?
I work in the private sector, and I have to get to a point where I look at strategic planning in a way that allows for little adapting and direction, as Butch put it, from people who weren't elected to give direction, possibly. And I think, from my perspective, I did get an opportunity to read the strategic plan from 2011, just to kind of see how it was implemented and see what was done. As I read through the sheet, I imagine Darren saw me chuckle on a few things where I thought, okay, well, isn't this an obvious thing that any director of any part of our county would know needed to be done in 2011, and then how much of it was done and how much of it was halfway done? Mm-hmm. So, I tend to agree that the idea that we try to start a strategic plan, especially while we're asking the voters to go and decide on more funding for our county, is going to be extremely tough. But also, I think every year our budget process allows for the voters to decide how we are doing in terms of budgeting and preparing our county for the future, especially in the unique nature of county government, where there are so many elected officials. We get feedback all the time from the voters on the job that we're doing, the direction we're taking, and as Butch alluded to, the statutory requirements that we have to do. As a free market guy that I am, sometimes I just would rather government kind of stay out of the way of the free market and allow them to be the ones that dictate the growth and success of a county. And with that, we get a tax amount that allows us to do what we think is best in order to take care of their health, to take care of their roads, to take care of policing and all the things that we are statutorily required to do. That being said, you know, I think this was a good discussion. I'm glad that Butch, you told us what you thought about it. I think right now this is $5,000 that I would rather keep in contingency for us to make some tough changes that we're probably going to be presented with, especially over the next few months while we see what kind of funding availability there is in the county. So as of right now, I'm not in favor of it. I am, however, on a strategic doing committee to put together a thing for the county that is not the county as an organization, it's the county as a whole. It's all the people, it's all the cities involved, and I think with that, maybe we can use that as a litmus and an idea of what people think for what they want to do with the county, and we can make the adaptations as commissioners from those type of things without spending a dime of our own money on that type of thing.
I agree.
Yep. And I can say to both of you for being here 11 years and Butch actually being here longer than that as a department head and now as a commissioner. Over the years, we've had a lot of good team building. I've got to attend a lot of the meetings with the different department heads, elected officials over time. You know, we've had a lot of good things come out of that. Butch, I guess you remember better than I do that meeting that we had. I don't remember what we had for lunch that day. I guess all I remember is it's like all these different things we've had. At the end of the day, we get a book about yay thick. It ends up in somebody's office. Not sure whose, because you never see it again. But somebody has it in their office. Maybe Donna gets to file it away in the clerk's office. I don't know where it goes. But it all looks good on paper. It really does. I mean, they got a great plan. I mean, it all looks good on paper. For one, if you don't have the money to do it, it never happens. If you don't have somebody constantly updating that every year and bringing it back, it never happens.
Never happens.
It's just like last year when we had that retreat, all of us. I don't know how many of you can tell me what we all talked about that day that ended up in that book. I can think of 3 items out of that whole thing, and there was probably 10 or more. And I think that ended up in Phil's office. I have no idea where that book ever ended up. Darren probably can answer that. Maybe it's in his office now. But I think we have a great group of department heads. I've had the opportunity to work with probably Bill Ring more than anybody in this room, and Carrie probably second through the building process when I was project manager. I think we've done a great job as commissioners. Could have we done some things better? Heck yeah. We all make mistakes, and I'll be the first to admit. You know, we all make mistakes, and I've made my share of them. But getting to work with both of them gentlemen through that whole process, and the court staff up at the courthouse and Sheriff Harbin, it was very eye-opening to that. I think we did a great job on those remodeled projects, building new buildings, et cetera. I think we just did a great job. I mean, I would do them all again if we had to. And I think we do have a good team. I mean, we got great elected officials. Lisa, you brought up some good points. Thank you. And working with Bill and Kurt this last week over looking at different ways that we can maintain money out at Public Works. I mean, it's the largest entity of the county. All the roads we have to maintain, whether they're blacktop, whether they're sand, rock. I don't know that we have any hardly dirt roads left in Ellis County, maybe a handful. But, I mean, we have one of the best systems in place through Road and Bridge. I mean, I commend, Kurt's been here the longest in this room out at Road and Bridge. I mean, Kurt and his staff through Mike Graff has done a excellent job. I can go to many surrounding counties, and Ellis County's the best. I'm probably being a little partial, but Ellis County's the best. I kid you guys not. I drive country roads every day of the week almost. And I can tell you we have the best. And it all comes from guys like Kurt that's been here for a long time working with Mike Graff. Bill rolled over into that job. And again, we just have some of the best staff and people working together Donna's been here for a very long time also, and we've just got a lot of good things. I think if we do more commissioner / department head meetings as a group, like Lisa pointed out, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's
Sure
about
is.
building relationships with the other. Going in, we may not all agree. When we come out, we may not agree. But at the end of the day, if we can man up and we all shake hands, whether we're right or wrong, and it was a good idea, a bad idea, you go up to that and you go forward. I mean, Darren's sitting in the office he's in now. I mean, we don't know how long he'll be there, but it's all about building relationships, like Lisa pointed out. I mean, at the end of the day, we agree to disagree. We're not all going to get along going to these meetings. I'll just tell you right now, I've sat through enough of these. When you leave, somebody's mad at somebody, but when you leave that and the next morning you see that person, or that afternoon, you put that behind you, you go forward. If you want to build a team, that's the only way possible you're ever going to do it. I mean, if you hold grudges and everything else, I'm sorry. It's like Butch said, if you're going to hold grudges against somebody else, it's time to get out.
Sure.
Man up, go forward, and build a team where we're at. And I know Kerry and myself working on that EMS building together, I'm sure there's many nights he went home and told Treva that, you know, he was just out here and I can't believe he wants to do this. The next morning I see Kerry, we shake hands and we go forward. We put that behind us. And we always have. I mean, there was just a lot of tension, I know, over that EMS building at times, wasn't there, Kerry? But, you know, at the end of that morning, we may have disagreed that night or that next day if I'd see him out or I'd see him back at the project the next morning. That all behind us. We went forward because it was a team effort to get the job done. And that's all we got to do. And we need to continue to do that. And with suggestions, department heads, elected officials, make those suggestions. The next meeting, Darren, that you guys plan, invite one of us. If you invite us all, then we have to have the news media present, obviously, or I guess you invite two of us, we do. But, you know, the next time you have one, you know, let us know. We can take turns if need be, guys, if you're in favor of that.
I'd be in favor of sitting in on occasion, yeah.
Take turns, and if it comes to a point where we need all three there, it'll be a special meeting, I guess, at the end of the day that we have to call to do it, but so be it. We'll go forward. So, Darren, I guess you have direction, I believe, from commissioners. You all in favor of doing that the next meeting that they plan to do together, that one of us get to be invited?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could just reach out to us and let us know when we needed to be here, we can coordinate some way to know we're not two of us here together, but.
We can roll the dice and pick a name out of the hat. As long as somebody brings money one of these times. I know times are tough. Surely somebody can come up with a quarter.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that?
No, I think you gave the group the answer we were looking for. We did not want to proceed without this support of the commission, because obviously that would have failed from the beginning. So,
I mean, I just don't want to plan again that ends up in somebody's office that we never see again.
Well, Dustin and I discussed that today. When we started this discussion, Mike found the original plan, and it surprised him that we actually had one. And you were right, it was buried. And to be honest with you, after the first time we found it, we had to go find it again. And then we found more information on it. But I can share that with the commission, so that way you can see that old plan as well as the updates that came through the following years, just to see how much that stuff that the commission and the department heads got done at that time. But
And I feel it needs to be something that needs to be a working document every year. You don't do it today and then you don't see it for 5 years. If it's going to end up like the same plan we've got with the rest of them we've paid these people to do, or our department heads have put.
So often when we look at a plan, if we change one variable, the priorities can
Yeah, the
change.
whole plans change.
The whole thing can change.
Exactly.
And those variables change constantly.
Yeah, and I think it leaves us less room to adapt. I think that's more important for us as a growing county in the future. I wrote down here that we need to stay lean. We need to get money put into the bank so we can adapt to opportunities that we have, and we need to react to the unforeseen circumstances that may arise. And in 1 year of us three on the commission, that's happened over and over and over, and we make adaptations and we allocate funds where we need to. And I think that will be the best way for the citizens of Ellis County to know if we think our department heads are continuing to look forward and doing the things that, like I said, while I read that, I go, why wouldn't this be a normal thing that any department chair would be thinking of in 2011 and doing without the expenditure of having somebody put it together for us.
And that's correct, Dustin.
For instance, if Bill has a bridge fail tomorrow morning and it's $1 million deal or a $5 million deal.
That's where your priorities
That's
are.
gonna change that whole plan.
That's right.
We got to adapt, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you all, department heads. Thank you for what you've done in the past and for going forward, so. All right, we will move on to the budget calendar for 2021. Darren Meyer.
So before you is about an 8-month calendar, which is somewhat drafted off the formula that we used last year. It's just a little bit more of a condensed time frame. And it takes into account the sales tax ballot that goes out at the end of March, which is due on April 7th. Basically, the biggest part of that is to have a first round of a budget drafted by all the department heads and presented to the commission through the several weeks in March for the commission to look at it and have the tough discussions that some of us fear are going to happen, some of the decisions that may have to be made based on what the results of the sales tax may or may not be. After the results, we'll reconvene, and you can give us further direction based on those results to revise the budget, and then go through the second round with the department heads and elected officials devising their draft budgets, hearing from the outside agencies in June, to ultimately having the wrap-up at the end of July so it can be published with the clerk's office and then ready for adoption. So that was kind of how it was all based on this year. And I just wanted to see if there's any input from the commission on how you felt that calendar was put together, or if you want to proceed with how it was presented.
I don't have any really issues with it, but I do want to say, for instance, in March, departments work on a 10-year capital project budget. I think in reality, it's a 5-year. 10 years from now, nobody in this room as a department head knows what their department's going to need 10 years from now. To me, that's blue sky. In 5 years, it's almost blue sky. You can say today at Public Works, this is what I want to do in the next 5 years. Tomorrow morning, Bill has some major piece of equipment that he had for 2026 to be replaced, and now it just moved up from 2026 to 2020. I mean, I think a 5-year, in my opinion, commissioners, is plenty out there.
I'd agree with that.
I mean, 10 years, there's probably a really good chance in 10 years, Dustin maybe might still be sitting up here, but I can tell you for a fact, Butch and myself will not be. So the decisions we look at today for 10 years is blue sky to the next commission that comes in. 5 years, I think it's reality. 10 years, everybody's department in here or an elected official department's going to change in 5 years, more or less 10 years. They have no idea. Donna could put something together tomorrow. This is the 10-year plan, and it could change in a year from now. And I think Mike, especially in IT, he knows my knowledge on computers is great, and to give him a lot of input on that. And that's going to change in 2 years. That's a whole new outlook, correct, Mike? I mean,
10 years is two lifetimes.
Exactly. I think it needs to be a 5-year plan. Plus, that doesn't put our department heads out there and elected officials trying to put a plan together for 10 years. That is probably a waste of their time. 5 years would be, I think, much more reality. Mike, would you kind of agree? You're probably the shortest, as far as a plan goes in replacing equipment. I mean, 5 years for you is a lifetime.
Yeah, we have a hard time planning out past 3 years.
Thank you. And that was actually where I was going. I wanted to go with 3 years, but I thought I better not cut it that hard yet. I think 5 years is more than efficient.
That's perfectly fine. That's what we have now within the current budget. In meeting with the auditors, that is what the auditors suggest, is that they're suggesting all counties move to a 10-year capital forecast. And that's why it was updated to reflect that. But it's based off your discussion.
I think a 5-year capital forecast is, I think, just much more reality. Dustin, how do you feel?
Yeah, that's the problem, is you get into so much blue sky and wasted time in trying to put together that far out with what will probably be a lot of adjustments in a 10-year forecast. I do like the sentiment here, though. I like the idea that we are going to, ahead of this sales tax, make a few discussions about where we see efficiencies in the county and what a budget might look like one way or the other, as we go to the voters and let them decide on some taxing. So I like the sentiment. I like the idea of us, understanding and knowing where each other are at before the time is to make the hard decisions. That way everybody in the county and our staff know as well. These are hard decisions for us to make, obviously, but probably the most important we'll make in this 2020 year. So,
Thank you. County Administrator report. Interim County Administrator Darren Meyer.
Fortunately, I get to keep talking. Got a couple questions for you. In the past couple years, the commission has chose not to pay the fees for the League of Kansas Municipalities. We got an invoice in the mail, and I wanted to confirm that the commission does not wish to pay those dues. It's roughly just under $1,100. We've not paid those, I believe, since 2014, if I remember right.
I'm not in favor of paying them, but it's up to you two. No?
I don't think we've lost any benefit on that.
Nope.
The second item is just to give the commission an update as the different projects we have going on with the county. We have 3. The first one is the EFS project up at the courthouse. It's almost wrapped up. They have a couple little touch-ups. We have a punch list finalized. We did do a change order about two and a half weeks ago with the contractor. We reduced the amount of EFS. Greg Herbert, myself, and Phil, and the architect was there, and that was a change order deduct of about $7,600, which reduced the price down about 10%. So that was a good change for that. The elevator project at the LEC, it is kind of on hold. We're waiting for the elevator to be shipped, hopefully by December 20th. They didn't have a lot of confidence, but hopefully by December the 20th it would ship. However, they won't start anything until after the first of the year with the holidays. So we're kind of on hold with that. And then as your commission is aware, that the restroom project for the 3 floors at the courthouse was approved. They're working with their subcontractors to get everything lined up to start working on that. And we've made it very clear with the contractor to make sure they work with the clerks or the courts to make sure that they don't interfere with any of the court sessions that they have in place, because that's going to be somewhat tricky for that project. But those are the 3 updates for those 3 projects. And the last that I wanted to remind the commission was this Thursday, the Come and Go event from 2 to 4 at the County Emergency Services Building for Carrie's retirement. So if you can make it down there and thank Carrie for her service, and I'm sure they're going to have cake. I hope they're going to have some cake. Enjoy some visiting with everybody and wishing him well in his retirement. That's all I got.
Thank you. County Commissioner reports. Butch, anything?
I don't have a report.
Sounds great. Mine's pretty light too. Dustin, you got anything?
Just attended the county Christmas party last night and had a great turnout. It was nice to see everybody in the room and get to watch the Chiefs win while we were there. I doubt they're going to have cake at EMS. It's probably going to be broccoli or something like that. They're trying to keep our hearts going. So, but I'll come either way to thank Carrie for her service to the county. That's all I have.
Yep. Again, thank everyone for attending the county Christmas party last night. Very well attended. A nice deal that everybody put on together. It was great. I do have a Workforce One meeting that I'll be attending via conference call on Thursday, and attending Carrie's retirement, and I get to go to drug court and watch the graduation of 6 new people back into the community. We had 7. One fell off the wagon, which is unfortunate, but I believe that one will get back on the wagon and graduate too. So that's a great deal. Judge Brown and Teresa Greenwood, Sandy Scheck, I'm not sure who all helped with that. There's a huge group doing that, but this is a very neat pilot program. It's very successful. I believe we're one of 4 in Kansas, and we now have other counties coming up to watch our program, and a lot of good things are coming out of saving the taxpayers a lot of money. So thanks to that group. But that is at 3:30 on Thursday also. So I'm going to go to Carrie's deal for a while, and then I have to go to drug court. So it's a great, again, Ellis County is a great place, and we're moving forward, and it's good. That's all I have. I do believe we have an executive session for 15 minutes.
Sure.
Correct, Butch?
I'd make a motion, we go to executive session for 15 minutes for non-elected personnel matters regarding employee compensation. The session will include the Board of Commissioners and interim administrator Myers.
I second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for coming this evening. Go back. And no action, and we will adjourn at 6:45.
Thank you.
Thank you.